have a bold prediction. In the next decade, trains are going to make a big comeback in the United States.
Not only are trains cost-effective, convenient, safe, and comfortable, they're also a necessary piece of the puzzle in order to reduce our overall impact on the planet. The FRA Corridor ID program has just kicked off, outlining millions of dollars of new investment into this critical infrastructure. And this is just the beginning.
Now, I'll be the first to admit that I am no data analyst. The evidence that I will be presenting in today's video is a little more qualitative than a lot of you might like.
Today, we're going to investigate this upcoming train renaissance from the perspective of stations that will play a key role in supporting it. We're going to look at how these stations were once revered as primary entrances to our cities, and how they tell the story of trains in the US, encompassing past, present, and future.
And I'm personally convinced that these grand entrances, which have long been shuttered, will soon be reopened.
And I think despite all they've been through, these stations tell a hopeful tale. We're going to look at two different case studies in two very different parts of the country: New York City and Central Oklahoma. In New York, we'll be looking at the history of Pennsylvania Station. And here in Oklahoma, we'll be traveling to 7 towns currently in consideration for new passenger rail. By juxtaposing these two drastically different places, we can hopefully start to find some really interesting connections between them. If you're a big fan of trains, stations, or just the history of architecture and infrastructure in general, I think you're gonna like this one. Welcome to Oringo Urbanism. Tyler! Who said that?
I am the ghost of stations past. I have come to tell you the tale of rail, how it laid the foundation for the nation, how it was ultimately discarded for cars. All aboard for a journey of discovery awaits.
I'm sorry, are you Penn Station?
Your eyes do not deceive you.
Huh. Pennsylvania Station in New York City was once an architectural marvel, arguably even grander than the famous Grand Central Terminal. The vaulted ceilings, massive voluminous spaces, and elaborate stonework of Penn Station was reminiscent of structures built in ancient Rome. One entered the city like a god, wrote Vincent Scully, an architectural historian. These renderings can help us visualize what it might have been like to experience Penn Station back on its opening day in 1910. Numerous photographs and drawings show us these incredible spaces. I'm particularly amazed by the skeleton-like vaulted steel structure supporting the incredible glass ceilings over the train platforms themselves.
Hey, thanks.
You're welcome. And at the time, this was truly an incredible main entrance for the city of New York.
Well, I might have been one of the grandest stations of my time, but that wasn't really surprising within the context of the time. In the 19th century, it was standard practice for towns and cities to be primarily accessed by rail. As more of the land in the West was being stolen from indigenous people by white settlers, tens of thousands of towns were springing up around train depots. If you live in a smaller town in the US, I would venture to guess this is how it got its start.
But ghost of stations past, I live in Oklahoma. We hardly have any passenger trains today. If what you say is true, what happened to all of it?
Well, the simple answer is that starting in the 1940s and 50s, the US intentionally started disinvesting in rail infrastructure in favor of roads for personal vehicles. By the 1960s, trains were old news, and the stations serving said trains, well, they were horribly neglected. For reference, the Grand Central Terminal should look like this, but in the 1960s, it looked depressing.
Even you, the once grand Penn Station, suffered the same fate. Your spaces, once grand and filled with light, have become dark, dingy, cavernous shells of their former selves, and were subsequently filled with cheaply constructed food stands, billboards, and ticket booths. In 1958, Lewis Mumford wrote that the only consolation is that nothing more that can be done to the station will do any further harm to it. 5 years later, Penn Station was demolished.
But here's the thing. Technically, I was only mostly demolished. The Grand Station may have been demolished and replaced with the famous Madison Square Garden, but the station itself never stopped functioning. The trains never stopped coming. And that's really the paradox of rail in the US. Sure, the great passenger rail network we once had may long be gone, but despite trains being shunned to the depths below Madison Square Garden, despite all the lobbying from the automotive, aviation, and freight rail industries, despite the egregious underfunding of Amtrak, some resilient form of passenger rail still exists today? This conversation has drifted beyond my area of expertise. I must go.
Well, that was really something. What was I going to say before they showed up?
The better question is, what are you saying right now?
Another one?
True, it is I, the ghost of stations present.
Oh, hey. In that case, I might have a question for you. If Oklahoma was really built around rail infrastructure, where is it all today?
Much of it is gone. However, much of its legacy still remains. If you only look closer, just as Penn Station never ceased to exist, many stations around the country still stand today, whether or not they are still operational. Are you familiar with the Amtrak Heartland Flyer?
I am, in fact. I have a video about it. Don't go watch it right now. I'll remind you at the end of this video, I promise.
Right. Anyways, one of the recently awarded Corridor ID grants went to studying an extension of the Heartland Flyer northward through Wichita to connect with the Southwest Chief in Newton. If you were to travel this route today, you might be surprised to see how much of this infrastructure already exists, almost in a state of dormancy, awaiting to be reawakened by renewed investment. Are you up for a road trip?
Well, given the current lack of other travel options, I guess a road trip is the best we can do.
No time like the present.
Let's go and visit all 7 towns along the proposed extension, starting with...
So this is Edmond, Oklahoma, and one thing you'll notice is that there's no train station in Edmond, Oklahoma. And in fact, there used to be a train station, and it was somewhere right in this area. Oh yeah, would you look at that? Edmond Station, Indian Territory. So if you look up the history of Edmond, it was actually founded around this train station. I don't know, if you look over there, there's like a platform. I don't think that's the actual platform from the train station, but I guess it's possible. Because in old photos of it, you can actually see this building in the background. As of right now, the city of Edmond does have plans to build a new train station. I believe in their comprehensive plan, the idea is to put it on that side of the street. This side is actually downtown, so they'd probably want to build some kind of pedestrian connection across here. Actually over here, I believe this is where their transit, main transit hub is. So the CityLink buses are the Edmond city buses. It's even in the RTA Oklahoma plan to bring commuter rail up here from Oklahoma City, which is awesome. This is also where they do the farmers market on the weekends, and I actually came and visited the farmers market a couple months ago, so I'll put some footage of that over this. Also, if you look over there, they've been building some more dense housing near downtown Edmond, so in terms of transit-oriented development, a lot of potential.
Stop number 2.
So this is Guthrie. Now, if you've ever taken Oklahoma history, you'll know that this was the original capital of the state of Oklahoma. And behind me, you'll see they have the old Santa Fe Depot still intact, unlike Edmond. See, they've got a historical plaque. Has some information on it. I don't actually know what this place is. I think it's a museum. Oh, it's a steakhouse. That's interesting. So the entrance to the steakhouse is actually on the platform side. So you actually walk down. That's pretty cool. You just imagine this fence isn't here, and then you got a train station.
It doesn't currently smell like a train station. It smells very much like a steakhouse.
Now you can imagine walking from the train station behind us there up this street, which
I don't have to imagine if I'm literally doing that.
it's true. It's all of us like we're really there.
Oh my God.
Pretty cool. It's gonna get a copyright strike. You can just imagine back in the day. Whoa, I tripped again.
You tripped in the same place twice.
I did.
Hang on, we were about to leave, but look at this like really weird tower. It's like a 5-story shed.
Next stop.
All right, well, this is Perry, Oklahoma, and behind me, you see the old Perry Santa Fe Depot. Now I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know anything about Perry. You had a joke, right?
It's just a regular Oklahoma town. Perry!
I will say this one's a little bit weird because it's kind of in between 2 tracks.
Yeah, on the other side of the building is a car dealership, and then you have to come across the track. It's in the middle of 2 train tracks. So.
But when you do cross the tracks, downtown looks pretty nice, so we might have to go check that out.
Okay, so I forgot to turn on my microphone while we were walking around downtown Perry, but it seems like a pretty cute town. It has a town square complete with a Carnegie Library and an old-fashioned Sinclair station.
It's the oldest continuously operating gas station in the state of Oklahoma. Ironically, this is one of the better views of the train station, but it's mostly obscured by this "Welcome to Truck Country" sign. And this whole road here has kind of gotten taken up by a truck dealership. But hey, there's the train station.
Fourth stop.
The original train depot here in Ponca City.
Now, unfortunately, when I recorded this bit, I got my facts completely mixed up. So enjoy this voiceover to correct my mistakes. To pick up for my lack of knowledge, I'll link a pretty interesting Abandoned Oklahoma article about this station for you to check out. Also, I really appreciate that when you look up this station on Google Maps, it says temporarily closed. Love the optimism. And with the new Heartland Flyer extension, it just might be right. Anyways, back to the road trip.
Do you know that Corey loves Mindy? This area definitely feels a little bit janky and abandoned, but imagine if, you know, various businesses and shops opened up in this area. I mean, the buildings are here to make it happen. We're a couple of blocks away from the actual main street, which we might go and take a look at here in just a minute. I believe BNSF uses this building as storage as well. Hey Katie, you want some Pepsi?
Do they have Coke?
They got a lot of Pepsi.
You think they have tea?
I think they have Pepsi. Here's the main street, which is actually called Grand Street. There's a crazy looking brutalist building over there. I'm not sure what that is, but this is their city hall, which looks like a train station to me, but it's not. And then this is their library, which also looks pretty nice.
I think they made mine first. Mine's a little more drinkable.
Might have burned my tongue a little bit on that.
Fourth stop.
Well, we are not in Oklahoma anymore. We're actually in Arkansas City, Kansas. But it's not pronounced like that. It's pronounced Arkansas City, not to be confused with Kansas City, Missouri. You get the point. This is the old station here. Originally, this one was a completely different building. It was like actually pretty big and fancy, but they tore it down in the 50s and replaced it with this beautiful building, which, given the number of cars parked around here, I believe BNSF is using this as some kind of office or some kind of employee center. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of people here, so I'm not gonna go try and check out the platform or anything. They got a lot of tracks here. This is like an actual like BNSF rail yard, and they got this fancy rock. So I would imagine that if the Amtrak comes through here, they're probably not gonna use this as the station. They'd probably build a new one somewhere. But this was historically the station.
Oh, it's this speaker up here at the stoplight. The stoplights, they're playing safety dance.
Now for our penultimate stop.
So we finally arrived here at Wichita, Kansas. Not our last stop, but it's close. And here they actually have refurbished their old historic train station, which is actually not called the Santa Fe Depot, it's called Union Station. No big surprise there, but they've fully refurbished the station, but no passenger trains actually come through here yet. You can even see the platforms up there ready to be used, ready for an Amtrak train, but they just don't have any right now. But if you come even further, you can even see the even older, even more historic train station, which is now just some shops and restaurants, but they left their historic depot next to their newer but still equally historic depot.
Are you just gonna keep saying historic and depot over and over?
I might just keep saying historic and depot over it again. But look, there's a train going by right now. If only it was a passenger train, that'd be awesome.
And now we finally arrived at...
And here we are at our final destination. This is the Newton, Kansas Amtrak station. We've got the Amtrak signs. You can tell it's a train station with functioning passenger trains. And actually, one of the cool things about this building is that it's actually directly on the city's main street. So we're gonna go take a look at the front. Now these Kansas stations are really one-upping the Oklahoma stations, I will say. This one has this really big building with office space in it. It's got this open plaza out in front with this big fountain, and it's right on Main Street, which is awesome. Most of the Oklahoma ones were like kind of a few streets over, but here in Newton, they're not messing around. Now, I will tell you that this is a pretty authentic to the Amtrak experience, because the one Amtrak train that comes through here currently comes through at like 1 a.m. So just imagine this, but with less cars driving around. That's what you'll find if you get off here. Here's the station. It sounds like there's a train coming, so I'm not gonna get too close to the tracks. That's the station. We've made it, and now it's time to go home.
Well, that was fun.
Nice.
Hey, you're still here.
I haven't told you about myself, for I am also Penn Station.
Oh, you are. But wait, I thought Penn Station was just a dingy underground rat hole these days. You actually look kinda nice.
That was a little bit backhanded.
Yeah, I probably could have phrased that better.
It's fine, you're not wrong. Technically, the old Penn Station below Madison Square Garden is still operating, but today, if you wander down that dingy old subterranean hallway and up some stairs, you'll find yourself in a brand new, light, open space called Moynihan Train Hall. The space was once the old mailroom for Penn Station, so it already sat conveniently above the tracks. Today, if you take an Amtrak into Penn Station, this space will serve as your entry point into the city. And despite only having very limited seating areas, it's a pretty nice space.
Hey, that's awesome. Good for you, man.
Thanks.
I have one question.
Shoot.
So you kind of glossed over this, but aside from the shiny new Moynihan train hall, you're still pretty much the original 100-year-old platforms from the original station, connected by a very cramped hallway situated below a massive aging arena.
Correct.
Don't get me wrong, the new train hall is great for Amtrak riders, but Long Island Railroad and New Jersey Transit riders are still stuck crawling out from the depths of despair. Is there any improvement coming to this part of the station in the future?
The future? You know what? I might know a guy who can help with that.
Let me guess, is it the ghost of station's future?
Technically, it's the ghost of stations yet to come, but close enough.
Oh, cool, you can talk.
Why wouldn't I be able to?
I just thought, okay, yeah, we're pretty far from the source material anyways.
You wanted to know about the future of Penn Station?
Right, yeah, what's up with that? Is there any hope?
Well, whether the average New Yorker realizes it or not, the station has been on an upward trajectory for the past several decades. Numerous fascinating proposals have been put together regarding the future of the station, including hollowing out Madison Square Garden to create a new impressive station structure within, and an even more ambitious proposal suggests just rebuilding piece by piece exactly what was once there. But with Madison Square Garden unlikely to move anytime soon, these proposals are just that, proposals. But just last year, New York committed to spending over $7 billion on a renovation of the existing station below the arena. Sure, this new refurbishment won't bring back everything that was once lost, but if you want to know what it will do, check your left pocket.
Oh, hey, lists. Upcoming improvements include doubling the circulation space, adding 18 new escalators and 11 new elevators, making navigation and wayfinding improvements, adding new passenger amenities, including retail, adding new underground paths to nearby subway stations, increasing the number of entrances from 12 to 20, constructing a new 30,000 square foot public plaza above ground, and including mixed income housing and space for community services? That sounds pretty awesome.
And all this is happening. No, it's nowhere near finished yet, but the new and improved Penn Station is scheduled to be completed in 2032, which is now less than a decade out. And I might be biased, but I think it will be pretty cool.
That's really awesome. But that's just one station in New York, a place that already has pretty decent rail service.
Another way to look at it is that Penn Station is one of the two most important stations in one of the most influential cities in the US.
That is true. Now that I think about it, there are so many other huge rail projects around the country that are coming together within the next decade. Later this year, the Acela trains that stop at Moynihan should be reaching speeds of up to 160 miles per hour. California High-Speed Rail is planning to begin operations in 2030. Brightline is up and running already in Florida, and Brightline West should be fully operational in the next 2 to 3 years. Even the Hawaii Skyline Rail will reach downtown Honolulu in 2031. There's even a Northeast Maglev project that's surprisingly far along in its development. With the new Corridor ID program, a pipeline for rail investment has just been opened. And as I've already mentioned, that money is already reaching places like Edmond, Guthrie, Perry, Ponca City, Arkansas City, and Wichita, none of which have historically received any investment in rail infrastructure. Sure, all of these project timelines might seem really long-term, and the scope of some of these projects might seem a bit underwhelming, but the most important thing is that they are happening, and each successful project builds momentum for the next one.
Even with all of these upcoming projects, the US still needs to think bigger. The Amtrak map still leaves some huge gaps, even with all of the new corridors receiving investment.
I agree with that as well. We need to be thinking even bigger. Each state should have its own comprehensive regional rail network. At the moment, there's a lot of barriers preventing this, and the most important probably being that most tracks are currently owned by private companies. But that doesn't have to be an excuse. With enough public support, states can collaborate with the companies who own these tracks, or better yet, acquire disused rights-of-way and create public rails. After all, your state's Department of Transportation probably already spends a lot of money on brand new highway construction. So what's really stopping them from redirecting some of that money to trains? And maybe one day we'll be able to recreate our little road trip without a car at all. After all, I'm a pretty experienced Amtrak Heartland Flyer rider since I took it to class for a whole semester. Sound intriguing? Here's that video I mentioned earlier. If you're still here, you definitely need to go check it out. Thanks as always to all of my supporters on Patreon. You guys are the best.